Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. I'm so excited to have you today, whether you are watching us or you are listening via any of the platforms. My name is Brittany Wheeler, and I'm your host, and I am just tickled for this conversation today. I don't even know what's going to happen, but that's almost the exciting part of it is like we could go any which direction. And so let me introduce my guest, you guys. And I just want to make a point really quickly in that this interview was meant for an earlier time and life happened and it just didn't make sense. And what I love about trusting in timing and what I love about not getting caught up in this happened or this didn't happen is if you just release it and let it go, it actually will happen when it's meant to happen for the better. And, you know, my guest and I were just talking about that offline before we jumped on. And so I know that whoever's listening today, y'all are going to be blessed by this conversation. So let me introduce her. She's a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a dog mom, an entrepreneur, a visionary. She's an advocate for healthy living. She's a badass. I just added that at the end. She's just like someone that just lets you be your most authentic self and just wants to be around you. And it's honestly truly the best. So please welcome my friend Liza Kelleher to the Brittany Wheeler Show.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Brittany, for having me on. I'm excited for what's about to go down.
Me too. And we talked offline as well. Like, you guys, you know, we have our health and wellness business. We've been friends for a long time. But what's happened is because, like, we're both badass women, we've just paralleled each other. And so over the past year, we've been like, no, we're going to talk. We're going to hang out. And so this is another one of those moments where the greatness comes together. And we are having this once in a lifetime kind of experience of having a conversation that is just going to be off the charts. So I'm really excited.
Yes, real and raw.
Literally, capital R's on both of those things.
R and R.
R and R. Okay, so share with the audience how you know me. Obviously, I kind of told them a little bit, but I'd love to know.
Yeah.
Like, share. I don't even remember how we met. Maybe you remember how we met. I don't know.
Well, I honestly don't remember the first time we met, but we knew each other through Arbonne, obviously. And I think we met at an event, probably at Danielle's house, I'm guessing. And I just feel like it was so easy right away with you because there's no like, you just know who you are. Your energy is just so authentic and genuine. And you create this like safe space kind of energy where you know you can just like be who you are. And I'm like, oh girl, she is my kind of people. Like, it's gonna be good.
and that is the case, you know, that like definitely was the case. And I think for me, when we first met, I was still navigating, you know, a lot of things in my life. And I remember, you know, I was hoeing around at the time, you know, I was still figuring out, I was drinking a ton. Yeah, this is a safe space on the Brittany Wheeler Show because I've healed from that.
Yes.
So I can talk about what I've healed from.
I love it.
But when you and I met, like, we were a little bit flip-flop reversed. And then what was really funny is we had gone back to Vegas for our training conference, and I had gone back for the first time since I gave up alcohol. And I remember looking around being like, I mean, was I partying? Was I hanging out? Was I turning it up like this before? And you and I were just like looking at all these women being like, just so excited for them. But it was the first time I think you and I really like, I feel like we had a real connecting moment at that trip because we just could see each other and, you know,
Yeah.
like in a really cool way that was like, yeah, all right, let's go shake our tail feather. Right. But
Yes.
I had been at that place with you where we could align, where before I was all doing my thing and, you know, in the thick of it, if you will.
Yes. Yeah. We love our Vegas trip every year. And I feel like sadly, that's really the only time we get to really get together with our ladies and cut loose and have fun and do all the Arbonne things. But I don't know, you just really get to know each other because, you know, there's no kids around, there's no distractions. We're just like literally able to be there with ourselves and we just, you know, we connect and we have so many vulnerable conversations, you know, and we really get to know like what each other is going through, like at that time, or, maybe anything we've missed, we catch up. But it's just such a special trip. And every year I have like such amazing takeaways. And I feel like I get really close with the gals who go there with us.
Yeah. And this year was the same. It was just
Yeah.
such an intimate group of ride or dies that I felt like it was probably the sweetest it's been in a while, this past trip, for me at least.
Yeah.
Just getting to hang
You
out.
guys had a good group.
Such a good group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always good. Okay, so we're going to go into the next segment, which is new. So I started this just a handful of episodes ago because my vision is like, all right, God, do you want this to be a talk show? And I was like, well, how do you take this from a talk show and make it three-dimensional? I was like, well, let's just have like my guests bring a mug and talk about why it's their favorite and how it came into their life. And it has blown me away just how excited everyone's getting. And just also, I'm thanking everybody, including yourself, of just getting engaged with it because it's such a random thing, but nobody's taking it lightly. So I would love to know,
Yes.
what's your mug and what, why is it your favorite, how it came into your
I
life?
love the question. I love it. I did think about bringing a different mug, but I don't know. This is my mug that makes me happy because I hate drinking out of anything plastic or stainless steel because I just like it to be see-through. Like I want to see my drink. It makes me happy. And I got it at Savers, which is also something that you might not know about me, that I love to thrift. I'm a big thrifter. I love the whole sustainability thing. And I mean, I post a lot on social media. That's part of what I do in my business. And it just looks prettier. It's aesthetic. It's not a big story, but that's
I love it.
true story.
Also, like, shout out to Savers. Do you like the Nashua location or is there another one you like better?
I go to Wilmington a lot
Okay.
just because it just feels a little more organized, I think. But I feel like Nashua has more because it's definitely bigger. They have more inventory, and I probably do better at Nashua, but it always feels like such a trek to go up to Nashua because there's so many things there that I'm like, I want to go to Savers, I want to go to Marshall's, I want to go to Home Goods, Sierra, Trader Joe's, Costco, and I never have time to do all of that. So I'm like, I'll just go to Wilmington Savers.
So funny. Well, and just to give people some proximity, right? Like, what she really means that because they're all on the same road. It's not like you're hopping all over town. It's like all those stores you mentioned are all literally on the same road. So you could just go bloop, bloop, bloop,
Yes.
bloop, bloop. So it is overwhelming when you're like, oh, and then I'll stop and get stuff at home from Market Basket. Like, it's just like it ends up
Right.
becoming like this whole task. Yeah, I could see.
Huge ordeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Overwhelming.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I love that it's see-through and I love that it's thrifted because that's always
Yeah.
fun too.
Yeah.
All right. So take me back. I want to go back also, which is so wild that we didn't realize that we grew up near each other, like in upstate New York. And that was cool. So take me back to your childhood upstate New York. And I'd love to know, like, what were some of those influences on kindness and compassion and like that your childhood like?
So I grew up in Hamilton, New York, which is a very small town right in the center of New York State. And if you've heard of Colgate University, that's there. It's a beautiful college, top 10 most beautiful college campuses like in the country. It's an Ivy League school. So that's kind of like Hamilton's claim to fame. So it's a very like perfect, like idyllic little small town. And I still love going back there because there's literally like nothing like it. I mean, there are some towns that are close, but it's just so beautiful, so charming. The people are so nice. And obviously, I have roots there. So my parents both grew up there and built their whole lives there. So I had a lot of cousins and family there, and all of our traditions, were at my grandparents' house. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, we had everything was together. And my mom grew up with four other siblings, and we had like, I don't know, like I think like 26 cousins. So it was like a big to do, like every time we got together. So it was really fun. And to this day, I still love those traditions. But I find it hard, like current day, to like create those traditions. Because my mom now lives on the Cape. My dad passed away last December. And one sister lives in Delaware, one lives in Falmouth. Um, and I'm much younger than my sisters. So I was born in 1980. I'm 45. My sisters were like, you know, I'm just like picturing it. Like they were 80s children. So I like feel like I had such a nostalgic attachment to the 80s because I remember the clothes, the makeup, the hair, the music, like, oh my gosh. And because my sisters were like teenagers in the 80s. And I was like the baby of the family. So, like, my mom would never admit it, but I was definitely an oops baby. She said, like, oh, I just really wanted another one. And I was like, yeah, 7 years later, 9 years later than my oldest, and 7 years later than my middle sister. So that definitely played into my childhood experience because I feel like everyone babied me. Like everyone took care of me. Everyone did everything for me, especially my older sister, who her name's Andrea, but we call her Nanny because she literally like takes care of everyone. She's such a mama bear. But I guess like some of my bigger influences growing up, um, I had some really great teachers and I had an amazing basketball coach who I still keep in touch with to this day. Him and his wife were just, they're amazing people. When I was little, because my sisters played for him, I was like the water girl. So I would like literally hang out with them. They didn't have kids yet. And I would like literally like hang out with them on the weekends. They like loved our family. And then I grew up through the years and ended up playing basketball for him as well. And he just had such a passion for basketball. And he grew up in a family of all women. So he really respected women. And I have to say, sadly, like that wasn't always the case with some of the teachers that, you know, I had growing up. And so he was a big role model for me. Um, and just my mom and dad, like they were just, they're good people, you know, they have good hearts. They always, my parents, like, always cooked. We like so much our lives revolved around food, which I think is kind of like cultural, right? Like our lives are so based around food. My dad loves food, loves to cook. My mom loves to cook. And so they were always like baking things and bringing them to people and, you know, always volunteering and helping out. And when we were super young, we had like, they called it a fresh air child, which like is I don't think the program exists anymore, but they had um Jeff Hibbler was his name, and he was a young black boy at the time, who lived in the city and would come out to the country and it was like spend like the weekends with us.
That's
And
so
so that was
cool.
crazy. So like we kept in touch with him forever. I think he's still alive. We haven't talked to him in a while, but we kept in touch with him until just recently. And so that was like really unorthodox for my parents who just were very small town people to do something like that. Um, and so I don't know, I just saw how generous they were, even though we were raised like on a very low income uh, kind of budget, I guess. Like we didn't have a lot. But my parents were always very generous with their time and what they did have. And just kindness, you know, just seeing that through them, I think has definitely made me who I am and kind of set the bar high. Because I find that it's harder and harder to do that now, you know, and I really want my kids to replicate that, you know. So just I think, you know, always being kind is a big thing I learned. Like, no matter who you are, you know, whether you're the janitor or, you know, the guy who picks up the garbage pails or, you know, a lawyer or someone checking out your groceries, just always like acknowledging, making eye contact, saying hello, how are you, you know? Um, and I just think when you do that, people like notice, they feel that you're acknowledging them and you just never know what people are going through. Like you really don't know. And I feel like I'm reminded of that every day when I like get short-tempered or like want someone to like hurry up, you know, in the car. They're like you're following someone who's like super slow and but you just never know what they're going through. You never know. So you just have to like have that lens. And I just feel like it makes you a much more gracious, humble person, and just kind of that perspective of just, knowing that people have a lot, that they're carrying a lot, and just to always be kind because, I mean, how can you regret being kind to someone?
You honestly don't. Like, that's the answer, is you honestly don't. And in fact, a lot of the times when you step into that space of, "Let me be kind," you actually end up either affirming that you did the right thing, or you're like, "Man, I'm so glad I didn't act differently," right? Like, I'm like, "Oh
Right.
gosh, if I would have acted or said or spoke the way that I was at first thinking of doing, I would have been really upset with myself and potentially also had a greater impact on the other person,"
Mhm.
right? Which is never what we
Yeah.
want. Something that's interesting to me, right, that I was thinking about is, and I would love to know how you got here. I feel like, as far as the career wise, there was a very specific time that you were doing something different. You're now an entrepreneur. And so I feel like, and I also think you've chosen businesses like, Arbonne Health and Wellness business and other endeavors that are all about being kind and having an impact on people's lives. What was the time in between your childhood and, being an entrepreneur now? And did that theme stay the same? I genuinely want to know that. Did the theme stay the same, or
Mhm.
was there another motivator that kind of came into play?
Um, well, I guess after college, like actually during college, I moved out to Massachusetts because both my sisters actually lived out here. Because we didn't want to stay in Hamilton. There's not a lot of opportunity there, being such a small town. We wanted to branch out, and so my sisters had moved out here. So I was like, all right, I'm going to follow them. And I waitressed for many years. I worked at a floral supply company as like an assistant buyer. Um, what else did I was a visual merchandiser at Louis Boston, which is like a really beautiful boutique high-end store, in downtown Boston. Um, and I think I don't know, like, I so many unique experiences, but in every place I worked, I just was able to find really cool people, and some of which are, like, still my core friends today, which is really cool. But I think my parents definitely instilled in us, like, a really good work ethic, like, right when I moved out, like, I made my own way. I knew I had to pay the bills, I knew I had to take care of myself, I didn't wanna be stuck at home living off my parents. And I wasn't even like they ever even said anything to us, it was just like a given, like, it was just like, "Yep, that's what you do," and I just did it on my own. Um and I think after those jobs, I got into the consignment industry where I managed a really awesome, like, high-end boutique that sold, like, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Hermes, all of the really nice high-end labels in a very affluent town, and I loved it. It was, like, my dream job, and, I love my clients. I had an amazing experience there with my clients, but my boss was horrible, like, such a nightmare. He was an older guy and just later much later, I learned that he had dementia. Well, we were working together and I was like, "No wonder he would just, like, snap and, like, freak out on me." And we were in a contract. I was supposed to take over the business, and I had invested 10 years working there, what do you call it? Like, sweat equity in our contract, and I was pregnant, and it was, like, 4 months until our contract ended, and I was, like, trying to have a conversation with him about, like, next steps. I'm like, "Let's get this figured out because 'cause I'm having a baby, and I wanna know what the plan is so I can, like, plan accordingly. Do I need to what do I need to do?" And he would just get mad at me for asking questions, which was so weird. And that day when I brought it up, he just started, like, yelling at me, and I was like, "I have to walk away because, like, I'm pregnant and, this is, like, really stressing me out." And he was, like, following me around the store and, like, yelling at me, and I ended up leaving, like, going home because I was, like, so upset. And then he emailed me and was like, "You're fired, like, we're done, this is over." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So it was, like, such a drama.
So dramatic.
And so dramatic, and I was like, "Holy smokes." I just remember coming home that day and being like, it was like dead silent. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, what am I going to do? I just like spent my whole life, it felt like, working towards this goal. And then the rug was just like pulled out from under me. And I was having a baby. And I was like, now what am I going to do? And so we actually took him to mediation and won, but it didn't really matter because he still owned 51% of the business. I only owned 49. And he basically, I feel like, just dangled the business in front of me like a carrot just to make me work hard and stay there. He tried to sell it a couple times and had another falling out with someone very quickly. And it was like he never really intended on selling the business. It was just like he just needed someone to work there to keep it running because he was like in his 80s. And it was sad because I'm like, it was such a beautiful business with so many clients who just were so loyal, who loved the shop. Um, and I know I would have taken it to like the next level, but when I do look back at it, I'm like, that would have been so stressful. Like the financial investment, having a brick and mortar shop through COVID, you know, not being able to spend any time with my family. Like I would have been working 7 days a week, like all of the payroll, the dealing with all the employees, the online, we had a website where you could order from, you had to ship out orders. And I'm like, it would have been like extremely strenuous. So I do feel like it was a blessing in disguise, but it was upsetting at the time, because that was my plan. And I was just determined to be a business owner. So I think that's where a lot of my entrepreneurship kind of came from. And I ended up doing kind of like a spin-off. And some of my clients from the shop started using me and I would sell online. So I was getting like these Hermes bags and these crazy things like at my house and having to sell them, which I was really excited about. But then just the splits ended up just getting too competitive. On eBay, they take like 30%. And so it was just getting to be, and I wanted to make sure I was giving them, a really generous amount.
Right.
So it just ended up being too much with the baby. I was juggling the baby and that business. And so I just kind of stopped doing that. And then I started working for a builder as like an assistant. And he let me bring Katie with me every day. And I
Oh,
put her in like a little pack and play.
I love that so much.
So I did that
So
for a
much.
couple years. And then I started doing Arbonne. And I was like, I really just want to focus on this. This is like what's exciting to me. It's helping me have some skin in the game with my own health and wellness. And at the time, I just, was postpartum and I just wasn't feeling great about my body, had no energy, was really trying to figure out like how to lose the baby weight, but wasn't having success. And I just started to really educate myself around nutrition. And I was an avid, fitness girl. Like I worked out all the time, but I was really not seeing much for results considering the effort I was putting in. And so when Arbonne fell in my lap, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is it. I love this. And I just didn't even really know that it was like an option, business wise. I had never heard of it before. And it just fell in my lap. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like exactly what I need right now because I want to contribute financially to my family, but I want to be home with my girl. And I knew we were going to have more kiddos. And so I just kind of jumped in and it's now 8 years later.
So
Which
cool.
is hard to believe,
It's
but
so
that's
cool. I love
that's
that.
my history.
Well, it was interesting because in that gap, I feel like rejection's protection. And that like you ultimately were, I wouldn't like, you're so determined as a person that you needed something so dramatic to pull you out of it because you wouldn't have left it.
Yeah, so true.
Like you literally needed, and I can say that because I'm the same girl. Like I have to
Yeah.
get smacked with a 2x4, not literally, but figuratively, in order to stop doing something. Because when I say I'm going to do it, I do it. Right. And I'm in
That
it. And
yes.
sometimes I've learned the hard way. Right. Like, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I think the 2x4 is coming. I should probably do something about that. Right. Like I should probably
Yeah,
make some changes and it gets easier the more you get hit with a 2x4. You learn what it feels like, and so you don't do it that often. It doesn't make
yep.
it easy. It's interesting. I
Yeah.
was thinking about, and I would love, I don't, yeah, I'm very interested about this question, but, you know, when did you first kind of unpack for yourself, like your strength and resilience? And like, is there a specific moment or an experience where that you really discovered that version of yourself?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's such a slow burn, like when we're young, we just don't really know who we are yet. And I mean, I was really shy when I was young, like to the point where if I got called on in class or my parents would sometimes ask me to like go pay the bill, at the diner or whatever. And I would be like bright red, like, oh,
Just
like
so funny
horrified.
because that's so not who you are now. So like,
I
I
know.
can't even imagine it.
So I feel like, it's kind of something that you grow into, but I really feel so strongly that the people that you surround yourself with really influence your confidence, you know? It's really hard to have just confidence innately. Like, hopefully, you have a great family who believes in you and like cheer you on. That definitely has a big part of it.
Mhm.
But I can tell you, my friend Megan Murbach, she is such a kick-ass woman. You would love her. She's the most hilarious, most fun, down-to-earth girl. She literally like, we met waitressing and we just clicked. It was like 2000, I think it was like 2001 that we met. And I trained her. We worked at Top of the Hub, which is like a building in Boston where you can have dinner and you can see like all of Boston. And, it was very swanky. We worked in the cocktail lounge, and, she just always was like, "You're so kick-ass, you don't need him. Screw that." Like, she's us always, like, just singing my praises and lifting me up and just telling me how gorgeous I was, and she really made me feel like, "All right, like, she's right."
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to put up with that shit, and so her definitely, and then my sisters for sure, are both really brilliant, talented, just amazing women who are just have their own individual strengths, and they for sure, like, don't put up with shit. They have so much integrity, and we're so loyal, and I think those 2 things, the integrity and the loyalty, like, are 2 of my most important qualities that I look for in people because I feel like it's really important to have that and to own it, in your friendships, in your relationship with your spouse, with your children. You like do what you're gonna say, what you're gonna like, do what you're gonna say, do what you say you're gonna do.
I knew exactly what you meant, but thank you
Now,
for articulating. I was like, I got you.
yes, yeah, like, so I feel like those 3 women like taught me that, and my mom for sure, like, she's the most chill, like, laid back woman. She's very quiet and, like, reserved, but if you get her fired up, watch out, like, she's
Coming after you.
she's hilarious. Um, and she's always been, like, my biggest cheerleader with everything I've done. She's always supported me. So I've been very lucky to have, like, amazing women in my life, and I think that definitely that's why I have the confidence that I do is because of them, and, more currently, like, we have our Arbonne community, and I feel like for some reason, like, I still don't can't, like, articulate this, but, like, the way that our circle of women just has this skill to shine a light on your talents and to make them, like, come to the surface just blows my mind. And so, just, doing things outside my comfort zone, public speaking, um, you know, teaching other women to build the business and to like help them recognize their strengths and like empowering them. And, every time you do that, you gain confidence in yourself because it's like, I just did something I didn't think I could do and I am capable, And so all those little things add up. And that's really basically like the definition of confidence, I feel, right?
Well, and I love that you bring up like our community too, and it is so rare. Um, and it's interesting because I, when I first joined our business in 2014, like I was a very different person than I am now. Personal growth will do that to you. But I remember sitting around a table. It was me, Sarah Luce, Elizabeth Bell, and Kelly Hudson. And I remember being like, if this opportunity is as great as these women are, I'm in. And they didn't know me from Adam, and they made me feel so seen and heard. And
Mhm.
I think that doing something outside of the box brings outside of the box people.
Mhm.
And so network marketing is an outside the box model. It is not culturally what is being taught or what's being experienced. And yet it actually has a lot of redemptive healing, in my opinion, based on the fact that like the world tells you you have to look, you have to speak, you have to act, you have to have degree. Network marketing is the one place where none of that matters. It doesn't matter what your religion is, your sexual orientation, whether you're a male, female, or whatever you identify with. Doesn't matter. If you want to if you have a big enough why to make a difference and to, you know, earn an income and do something different, you can do this. And so I think because of that, right, it attracts really beautiful people and then the journey begins, right? And I think about like where I started and just the grace and love and almost too much grace that was given for loving me in seasons of my life, right? When
Yeah.
I didn't have I didn't have that community, or I did, but I didn't have on the other side of it people being like, hey, we love you and you're better than this. Hey,
Mhm.
we think you're so smart and what you're doing is hurting you, right? Like
Mhm.
the and doesn't always exist. And so I think that goes, and maybe that's also what, just from hearing your story, what what about your upbringing also attracted you to this community was that you probably grew up seeing a lot of the and, right? Like, hey, you're going through this
Mhm.
thing and we're going to show up for you. Hey, you need a meal, okay, and like checking in on how you're doing, right? Or hey,
Yeah.
you don't have the same, provision that we do. Don't worry, and we're going to help. That would make sense that like this community is something that feels like home to you because it is ultimately in a way how you grew up and how you were raised.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good parallel that I never realized, but
Yeah.
I definitely see that.
Yeah. And interest yeah, I just was like, as we were talking, I was like, I this is interesting where this is going.
Yeah.
I feel like too there was something about um like, obviously, going back to the consignment, you wouldn't have realized it unless you got hit by a 2 by 4, but you and I have
Mhm.
talked about, I think subconsciously there was a yearning, right? And I think that there's a lot of women that are, um, lost, that are not feeling in alignment with what they're doing, and there's bills to pay, they need to contribute
Mhm.
to their family, all of these things, and I would just love to know, what is advice you'd give to someone if, to start, to take that step, if they've woken up to
Mhm.
life that they no longer feel like they fit in. They no longer feel like this makes sense anymore.
Yes, I can definitely give advice on that because when I worked at the shop, like I love my job. And like you said, like I was committed, like I wasn't going to leave, but I was miserable. Like I would dread walking through that door every single day because it was a toxic work environment. And I would bring it home with me and I'd like vent to my husband about it. And so it like affected our relationship. And he tried to support me, but it was like I was being so dwelling on the negative because it was like affecting me to my core. And, I know that's not the case for everyone. Like some people love their jobs, which is amazing. But if you're stuck in a job or you're just feeling like unaligned with what you're doing, like you got to just like find solutions, like what is it that you want to do and start working towards that very slowly. Like, all right, you want to get a different job, and this job might be something that's totally out of your realm of skill, but what can you do to start learning that skill? And just take those small little steps, those action steps, and that's going to make you feel equipped and like you are able. But it's going to take time, but like we have nothing but time. What better than to use your time productively towards something that you want to go for? Um and, with Arbonne, obviously, we all start at the same place. And for some people, that's horrifying. Like we all have our hesitations, but it's like the journey is what makes it the best, and that's really the case for many people. And when they're trying to find their purpose or trying to find, what, they want to do with their life. And there's like studies out there that show like once you reach that goal, your endorphins are like not even as high as when you're in pursuit of that goal.
Right.
So it's like people need to stop just wishing for the quick fix and just take the journey, do the work that it takes to get you there because you're going to be so fulfilled by that work. You're adding value to your life. You're becoming a better person. And when you're a better person, you have more rich experiences in life and you have more to offer. And so, don't sit in something that doesn't feel right for you because the second you take that step away towards something else, those stones start to come into place and you meet someone who's, going to connect you with, someone they know, or you get a job somewhere. Maybe it's not the job you want, but then you meet someone at the job and they're like, hey, you would be so good at this. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that was like a job, like, so you just have to start taking the step, and that's kind of like signaling the universe, like, okay, she's doing it. Like, let's start to get ready. Here we go. So you have to take the first step. And life is way too short. Like I wish that I hadn't stayed at the shop that long, like had I known that he really had no intention to, turn the business over to me, like I would have left long ago and who knows where I would be, but ultimately it did lead me to where I am now and I'm very happy with my life now. But yeah, you gotta take that step. And I know it's hard for people because it's the unknown, but challenges are what shape us, and if you're not challenging yourself, you're basically just, like, rotting.
Yeah.
You gotta do things outside your comfort zone. Like, I sorry, but I cannot stand people who don't challenge themselves. Like, you're just on cruise control. Like, what don't you want more for yourself? Like, wasted potential is, like, the biggest tragedy, And I think it's so sad that people don't believe enough in themselves to, like, take those steps. So, whatever you gotta do to believe in yourself, read a book, listen to a podcast, start working out, empower yourself, you gotta do those things. Who are you living for? Maybe it's not you, but maybe you want a family one day, or maybe you know your current family needs you to do this. Maybe they need the money. Like, who knows? You gotta show up and figure out who you're showing up for. If it's not you, then you know it's almost more motivating when someone else needs you more.
Yeah.
So
So good. When you were honestly, the imagery when you were talking, I went back to 2014 a little bit and, like you were saying, I used to always be somebody that could easily be motivated for somebody else. Like I would never do something that would hurt someone else intentionally, right? Like or I would show up for other people and not for myself, right? And that's coming from like, years of trauma. We worked on it. And I also think that in 2014, when I started my business, I think there was an element of myself that needed the community to pour into me and to believe what I couldn't see. And so I guess my question would be, what would you like, just advice from yourself is like, there are people listening who want to do the next right thing, who are unhappy, who are yearning. But the reality is that the people that they're surrounding themselves with aren't it. They're not the ones that are going to get them there. So what advice would you give to someone who needs to change up their community because the community they currently have, the environment they have right now, isn't going to lead them and help them, right, to see their best potential?
yeah, that's a really tough one because I think for many of us, your family is part of the problem. Like, a lot of people don't have supportive families, but you can't just like write them off, but you got to set boundaries, like boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Like, the older I get, the more I'm like, boundaries, like, need them. Like, you got to learn to distance yourself or keep people at an arm's length that aren't serving you or adding value or supporting you or cheering you on, or maybe they're just like energy vampires and they're just sucking the life out of you and they're just like in the negative headspace all the time. You don't need that. You're working really hard to protect your mindset. You cannot be around those people all the time. So I think, um, it's up to you. Like you got to put your big girl pants on and find those people. Like you have probably a couple friends, one or two friends, maybe a family member who you're like, that's my person. I feel so good every time we hang out. When I come home, I feel like my cup is filled. And the best hack, I feel like the life hack is like be friends with people or at least put yourself in places where people are where you want to be. Like we have all different friends in our lives, and the friends that I like to hang out with the most are like really freaking killing it in life. They have lake houses, their kids are in a million sports, they're, making great money. Um, and they invest, they have investment properties, and it's like I want to learn from you, like you got to be curious. Like that's one of my like biggest things is I love to learn from people, and you got to be curious because you learn so much more from people than you will on Chat GPT or anything on the internet. And so just like I think talking to people and putting yourself in rooms with people who are where you want to be, like that's the best thing you can do. And don't try to be friends with everybody because I mean there's like studies out there that say you really only have like 5 core people in your life. Like you might have like a ton of different circles of friends, but you really only logically have time for 5 people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so you can probably quickly list who those people are, and so are those people filling your cup, helping you, cheering you on, getting you closer to where you are? Do you have that mutually beneficial relationship where you're kind of helping each other out? Or is it just more one-sided,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's so good. And I was thinking about your friend Megan, right? That was her name from that worked with you at the restaurant. Like, she was one person in your life that like intentionally needed to be there in a season to call you up to be a better version because of what she could see in you. And, I think that the balance with friendship is history and future. And I think that it can be hard when you have history and memories with people, right? To navigate, gosh, I love them and I love who we were. And yet you're doing the same things, you're hanging out the same way, like the conversations are the same. And I think to your point, you just have to kind of make a decision of like, is this ultimately going to be where I want to end up? And there's not it's not to say that those people don't have a place in your life. It's just how much of your time are you giving them? How much of their influence are you allowing in your life? And I will say
Yeah.
that like, because of personal growth at 24, I started really being mindful of who was I taking advice from. And that's in a lot of categories, right? Like I take marriage advice from people that have marriages that are where I want to be, right? That's just the facts. When it comes to finances, I'm not like taking advice from anybody that's not where I want to be financially. When it comes to friendships, like pick a category, wellness, fitness, right? I'm not going to go take advice from someone that doesn't work out. I'm going to take advice from someone that's disciplined and has a sustainable, healthy, well-rounded, right? Approach on fitness because that's what matters to me. And that's what I know. And so I think like to your point, who you're hanging out with is no different. And it can be hard. And, people are in this thing like it's been driving me nuts. I interviewed Sarah Luce a while ago. We were talking about homeschooling. And the thing that is just making me go crazy is that people like have to take a stand on the things they don't believe in and dismantle whatever is they're walking away from. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and Sarah and I talked about how like she loves to homeschool her children. That's what made sense for her and her husband. And she still has the best relationships with the teachers. They're all still friends. Like the teachers were helping her with resources. Just you don't, two things can be true. And so I would encourage, like, if you're listening and you're like, well, this person and this person and this person and this doesn't fit in your life. Okay. And you don't need to tear them down. You don't need to say that, like, well, just because this way of life you're living is what I want. Like, you can just say, this is awesome. or don't say anything at all and just start hanging out with new people, right? Like
Right.
you don't have to
Yes.
belittle people and make them feel less than, or that because their path is not your path, right?
Right.
Because that's just not the case. And I think a lot of people are like, well, this person isn't where I want to go, so I'm gonna no, it's not
Yeah, it
that
doesn't have to
serious.
be that extreme.
No, not at all. Like,
Yeah.
and I would say, yeah, just I love what you said about just start something different, I mean, like, and take that step. I mean, I think about like what you just shared in your story, and no one can really understand where you were with that consignment shop unless you've been an entrepreneur on the edge of hope. There's something that is like you were an entrepreneur on the edge of hope. You were
Mhm.
dangled in hope. That's what you were holding on to is hope, right? And
Yeah.
and to have that taken away from you, to be fair, obviously, like, you had a daughter coming, and I think there was a plan in that, because if you didn't have a daughter coming and a way to get yourself out, it could have probably been emotionally very different. But the
Yeah.
reality is, like, you could have been in despair for a really long time, and because of Katie and because of life, you were like, "What's the next step?" And the step was, "Well, what opportunity is out there?" Did working for a builder align at all with your path? No.
Right.
No, right? No. And it doesn't align with
Yeah.
what you're doing right now. But it aligned in the fact that it was an opportunity where you could take a step, you could
Mhm.
do something, and you got to bring your daughter, which was what was important to you in that moment. And
Yes.
I think people could listen to your story and miss that the next step was just the next right thing. It wasn't the
Right.
solution to the long term. It wasn't the vehicle for the revenue and the wealth for you and your family, but it was the next right thing. And that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just gotta, you don't have to know all the answers, but you do have to be willing to try new things. You gotta just try things out sometimes. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. Like, you get to decide.
Yeah.
Like, people, I feel like, make their decisions based on what other people are gonna think. Like, and I say this all the time because it makes me think of, like, a mom, like, back in, like, a 90s mom being like, "I am in charge." And I say that to people, "You are in
Yeah.
charge," Like, don't let, like, other outside influence, like, pollute, like,
Mhm.
your what you know in your heart
Yeah.
is gonna be right for you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I'll never forget too, like, one of the things that I've experienced over time with my relationship with God, like when I before I knew him, like I knew of him, before I had a relationship with him, I would just seek all the advice from all my friends in every topic, business, relationships, like guys, whatever, like, and I would just be like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And what ends up happening, you guys, is like you lose your own voice. You can't hear your own thoughts because your best friend and your cousin and your mom and your dad and your brother and your husband and your wife, all of that becomes your monologue, right? And so honestly, it does more harm. And what I learned and what I was able to do in my faith is realize, okay, what is my voice? What is my heart? And I line it up, that's why I spend so much time in prayer and just quiet and stillness so I can
Mhm,
hear myself and connect my head and my heart. And then when I step out, I'm intentional, like you said, about who you surround yourself with and where you seek advice from, right?
mhm,
I like, once I come out of that quiet space every day, I don't just let anybody speak over my life. I don't just go to anybody, and you and I both are in a place in life where we are going to the top levels to seek advice from people that are at the top levels we wanna be at, because we're like,
mhm.
"Nah, this ain't it. I'm not talking to Joe Smo down here who's never even lifted a finger in this
Yeah.
industry," right? Like, I don't want that, right? And so I do think there is an element of also, like, just silence the noise and know that just because they're friends and
Mhm,
family and they have advice doesn't mean it should be shared. And I too say that from a place of I have had to learn how to listen and to not give advice and to listen and also to know that sometimes letting somebody walk the walk, fall flat on their face or trip is more powerful than any advice or thoughts you could give on the topic.
yeah. Life experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Eat it.
yeah, it is honestly. Like it's a love-hate relationship with a life experience. I'm grateful for it because it got me here and I'm able to, my mess is my message and I'm able to help a lot of people. But like there's a lot of shit I wish I didn't have to go through. That would have been
I
cool too.
know.
Like it'd been so
Yeah.
cool. So we talk a lot about legacy in our industry and how we're leaving the place better than we found them. And John Maxwell says legacy is not what you leave for someone, it's what you leave in someone. And one of the biggest gifts that I ever got from this business is the people. And one of the biggest gifts I got from the people is getting to watch these women in a variety of ways. I mean, Kelly Hudson and Matt Hudson are two of my most favorite people on the planet, and getting to watch them, it have such a proximity as a young girl in what it's like to be married and not just like, hi, honey, I'm home. Like really like watching that play out. Right. And the Sarah Luzes and all the friends that we have that are, I'm able to be like the
Mhm.
Danielles and what they gave me. One of the biggest things that they gave me was being able to understand while they had children, what those exchanges of time and experiences were actually modeling for their family. And it is, I know, a challenge in entrepreneurs. You never want the reason why to be the reason why not, right? And what I think entrepreneurs get to give to their children is the front, the front row seat to all the things. So I love to know just because of your girls are in the front row, right? So what are you hoping that, when they're in their early 20s and you're having those like, all right, what's really happening? Where are you going? Like, what do you hope that they took from all of this, watching you as an entrepreneur and watching you overcome and endure and be resilient?
Mhm. Well, it's just like such a scary time to raise kids. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like I kind of wish I didn't have kids just because I'm worried for their futures, because I don't know what it's going to be like when they're in their 20s. And so I just feel like my whole time parenting them and raising them, it's like my duty and my mission and purpose in life is to prepare them and equip them to leave our house when they move out on their own, to be successful. And what I mean in that is, happy and smart, just in making good decisions and just having good people in their life, and I just I want them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet and just be confident in who they are and not be, totally influenced and swayed by everything that's going around them, and we have to work so hard. I mean, every parent is different, but we work so hard to try to, you know, get the girls to play outside. Like, we don't use tablets unless we go on vacation or, long car trips, because that's just, what we find works best for us. They do watch YouTube, but we try to limit that because we notice, they get really fresh when they watch a lot of YouTube because that's how they can talk on YouTube because they're funny, but it's, actually really fresh.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly in the phase now. I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old where, um, you know, we just speak to them very matter of fact. What you just said to me is very fresh, and this is how you should be rephrasing that. And so I try to not shame them or, belittle them in any way, but just speak very matter of fact and educate them. And so they know moving forward, all right, that's you know, that's not how I should talk. And so it's a lot of that. And just so I just feel like the parenting that you do now is really setting them up for success, what success is for you in the future. And just, you know, loving them like they need so much love. And I'm so grateful that I have my Arbonne business because obviously it's a very unconventional way to make a living, but I literally every single day I'm like, I am so grateful that I said yes to this when I had no idea what I was like stepping into. And like, I get to decide when I wake up. I get to be there and make them breakfast every day and put them on the bus. I get them off the bus. I can go to any school event I want. And we snuggle on the couch on Friday nights and watch a movie. That's our movie night. We have popcorn and cider, and we take them on vacations. And it's not all perfect by any means. We work through a lot of tough things together. But I think we have a lot of cherished time together, and I feel like that's what kids need, especially now before the teenage years. Like, they need to know that they can come to you, that they can talk to you,
Yeah.
that you're not going to be shaming them for doing something wrong, that you will accept them, whether they're behaving or, back in the day, I feel like, if you weren't behaving or happy, like, your parents were like,
What's wrong with you?
you know,
Why are you
yeah,
acting like
like,
that?
"What's wrong? Shape up,"
Yeah, come
because
on.
that was, like, old school, the old school
Your dad,
way.
your dad, your dad drove you here. Like, you're gonna stay.
Yeah.
Like, figure it out. And I'm like, what if we
Yeah,
don't want to be here, right? Like, come on.
right.
Like, I had to leave work
So,
early.
yeah,
Okay, cool, great.
yeah.
Wow. I'll
And
eat
so
one less
just
pretzel today to manage the loss of the hourly rate. I'm just
I
kidding.
know,
Go on. Like,
I know. So it's just like it's a very different world now,
yeah.
and my husband and I were raised very differently. Like, both of our parents were really strict, and it was just like, "You suck it up," and, like, there wasn't a lot of, like, acceptance unless you were obeying the rules,
Mm,
and it's different now because there's so many more outside factors. So
yeah.
just like, recognizing their emotions and how they're feeling and saying it's okay if you're mad, and like, you just got to love them where they're at and then try to help them solve problems on their own. Like, what would you do,
Mhm.
in this situation, instead of saying, like, you should have done this?
Yeah.
What would you do? And like, sometimes we'll write it down. Like, Katie will be like, well, I would have done this. And then maybe I would have tried this. And then I'll say, well, this could be a good option.
Mm.
And then we look at them and say, like, this is like when it's like meltdown status,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
And I'll be like, which one, like, do you think is the best solution?
Yeah.
And they'll always pick the one that's the right one,
Mhm.
And so, like, really teaching them those problem solving skills, I feel like is a massive tool for when they're adults. But I could go on and on. But parenting is like literally not what anyone has a clue they're
No.
signing up for.
No, you're just doing the next right thing and you're trying to
Yeah.
break generational curses. You're trying to do
Yep.
differently than your parents did and also take things with you, right? And and I
Yes.
think that like I was able to interview Kelly's boys last year. So if you get a chance, listen to that interview
Uh-huh.
and all three of the Hudson boys on there. And what was really sweet was like I think that as parents, and obviously you're in a critical time, but like, I think there's that minute of like, oh my gosh, like you're so in it, you're so focused, you're focused on all the things you're not doing. And getting to interview the Hudson boys was so sweet for Kelly and Matt to see, okay, the boys were watching. They were paying attention. At the end of the day, all the things that we were
Yeah.
so frustrated about, like falling short, they didn't know, right? And also
Yes.
they were still catching on and following along, And I love that you
Mhm.
mentioned like there's so many young moms that are like, I don't want to miss this. I don't want to miss this. And what my time with our Arbonne women taught me was that it isn't the sacrifices at year 1 or year 2 that really matter because it's only you that
Mhm.
remembers. The time that you wanna have with them is what you're talking about, right? Is gonna be like going into elementary, middle, before the world and just culture and influences start to make a difference, and that has been
Mhm.
unanimous with, like, every mom that's in
Yeah.
our organization has been like, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 was like it was hard because it was hard, but being able to be present for 5 through high school was so much
Yeah.
more valuable than the early years, and I think that keeps a lot of women especially postpartum, keeps them in shame, keeps them in doubt that like they deserve to do something different, that they deserve to not like be stressed out all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of
Yeah.
cycle. And the reality is, like, you honestly should do it when your kids are young so that you can have that exchange and, get that time, get that investment in time or investment in your health or your mental health or whatever it is that you're at a place where you're really like sacrificing right now.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Like, when you're a new mom, you're just like trying to stay above water, but then when you come out of the forest for a little bit, you're like, "Oh my gosh, like I got to remember who I am now." And it's really important to do things for yourself. Like I have friends who literally like their identity is being a mom and I'm just like, "Don't you need like something for you or like not necessarily a job or, but just like self care, like just something, and everybody's so different, so no judgment there, but like I need self care to
Yeah.
self regulate. And, I think when you get older and your kiddos get older, you just realize how important that
Yeah.
is. And it's like a non negotiable,
Non-negotiable. Yeah.
So you gotta pour into your cup because everyone needs so much from you,
Yeah.
like so much. And you gotta do things. No one's gonna tell you, what you need. Like only you know what you need, so you have to take it. And
Right.
my sister told me that a long time ago. You gotta take what you need,
Yeah.
like now.
Yeah.
Don't wait for your husband to say, "Oh, why don't you go get a pedicure or like go to the mall?" Like he doesn't know that when you need that. Just
Right.
go. Tell him you're going and whatever,
Right.
So that's just essential as a mom,
So
I think.
good. So good. Yeah. And such a good way to just like kind of wrap up too. Just advocate for yourself, like oxygen mask first, like, and to remember that you were Liza first before you were
Mm.
Liza as a daughter, as a friend, as a wife before you were a mother. Now I understand sometimes that doesn't happen in that order, but at the end of the day, you were still that person right before, right? And if we forget who she is, then how are you going to then pour into your children and give them the best of you, right? And there are women that are called to be moms and go off, sis. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And you need to be full and nourished, right? In order to be the best mom you can be. And so, like Liza said, if you're listening, like just what is that thing for you? Hobby, friendships, like time
Mhm.
away, like and claim it and own it and work with your partner, your spouse, or your community to figure out how to make
Yeah.
that happen, right? I think we get ourselves in these situations because we create this like this super mom complex and
Yes.
we just don't need to have it. You can't, I'll say
Mm.
for forever, like you can do it all, you can have it all, but you shouldn't do it all. And what I mean by that is like, pick the things you don't love the most. Like I already know I'm hiring somebody to clean my house because I have no intentions of doing that deeply because you know what? There are other skill sets that I have, right? Like that's
Mhm.
just a really trivial example, but like, if you have the means to exchange financially for time, do it or
Yes.
collaborate with other people or say, you know what? The house is kind of messy this week. And that's okay because I'm going on 3 field trips or I've got this for work or what like we cannot do it all and you only get 100% of yourself. You don't get
Yes.
100% times all the things that you have to do. It's just one
No.
100%, right?
No.
So it's like if 30% is with the kids and then you've got 30% for this, like it's just you cannot multiply yourself 100% all the time.
No. It's just gonna lead to burnout, and
Burnout.
then you're gonna be like a raging bitch and miserable to be around.
Exactly, exactly. Nobody wants an angry mom that hasn't taken care of herself. Literally, wars can be brought from
Yeah,
that. Like, you want to talk about
not
a
good.
real threat in this world? Give
That's
give me a
right.
mother that's had no
Exactly.
sleep raising 2 kids that hasn't been able to take care of herself.
Oh,
She will wreak
yeah,
havoc on a community. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
so good.
not good for anyone.
No, not good, not good. Okay, I wanna get into 2 lifestyle questions before we close out. So first one is, what is your favorite local small business in your area that you wanna shout out that you love to go to?
There's a really cute coffee shop, and I don't drink coffee, but I like chai lattes, and it's called the Old Mill Coffee House, and it is the cutest place. It's in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, right in the town center, and it's like in an antique little tiny house, and it has a gift shop attached with all like local artisan items for sale, pottery, knitted goods, jewelry, like fragrances, candles. It's so cute. It's right across the street from my gym, so I usually go there sometimes after a class with a girlfriend and we'll grab a drink, and like I always need to get a gift for someone, so I love going there to support them.
I love that.
And it's just adorable in there, so you got to check it out.
So cute. Love that. Chelmsford. Love it.
Yeah.
What is a book you've read multiple times that you believe someone listening needs to read too?
Mm. I haven't read it multiple times, but it was so good. Um, and it's not a self-help book, but I have read many of those and I have many favorites, but sometimes I feel like you just need an escape, and I love historical fiction, or even historical biography, but this is historical fiction, and it's called The Paris Seamstress,
Okay.
and it's really good, and you can't put it down, and I, like, never read, like, a touch like, a tangible book,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I could not put it down. It's really good.
Paris Seamstress. Okay. Who's it by?
Mhm. I'm not sure.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. We will figure it out. I will find the author for you. We'll put it in the show
Okay.
notes.
Thanks.
You're so welcome. If somebody is like, I don't usually say this anymore, but something is telling me to do this. If somebody is listening and they're like, I want to connect with you, how can they do that?
You can hit me up on social media,
Mm.
on Instagram. Liza Dares to Dream is my handle. That's probably the best way to reach me.
Love it. Love it. Okay, cool. I don't know why. I just felt like I needed to give that shout out there because, like, who knows, like, what's gonna happen from that? But that's all right.
Maybe someone needs some mom advice, you know?
Exactly. You just never know. Thank you so much, my friend. This was so sweet. I hope you had a good
This was
time.
so fun. I loved it. I wish we could talk forever.
Seriously, we could talk forever, but the people need us because we can't really be in the same space without being pulled apart because, we're such pillars in people's lives. It's too much. Like Liza and I have to plan once a year, twice a year to actually talk to each other because everybody wants us. It's like, it's awful.
We are in demand.
We're in demand. There's a wait list. It's so good. So good. Well, thank you so much. I know that so many people are going to in our community and your community, they're going to love it. And I'm grateful for you being authentic and real and sharing your heart. I know it's going to bless somebody.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was so fun. Thank you for creating such a nice, safe space to just share my life and all of really good questions. So I loved it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for meeting me here. This was great. You guys, you can follow Liza. We're on her Instagram. I'll put it in the show notes. Share this episode. Share it with whoever. There's so many things we talked about that I really think can speak to people. That's what I love about these stories that we tell is like, there's never just one person that fits because there's so many different layers to people. So share this episode. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us wherever we have social media. Follow the YouTube channel and share. And as always, do good things. Make me proud. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.